one moment for everyone to come in from the waiting room. Good morning. This is an emergency hearing before the licensing board for the city of Boston. Today is Monday, February 1st, 2021. Before we begin, I'll introduce Chairwoman Kathleen Joyce.
Good morning. My name is Kathleen Joyce. I'm chair of the licensing board, and today I'm joined by Commissioner Kiana Saxon and Commissioner Liam Curran.
Today's hearing is being conducted pursuant to certain temporary amendments to the open meeting law. That is what allows us to meet virtually. Today's hearing is being recorded and will be posted on the City of Boston's website. Please ensure your video and audio are functioning. I will read each agenda item into the record. I will then ask who is present on behalf of the licensee. I will ask who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department. And finally, I will ask whether there are any individuals with personal knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify. All parties will then be sworn into the record. Again, please ensure that your audio and video are functioning, as that is necessary to be sworn in. Calling item 1, Rosa Mexicano Boston LLC, doing business as Rosa Mexicano, located at 155 Seaport Boulevard. The date of the incident was Saturday, January 29th, 2021. Failure to adhere to the governor's executive order and the board's advisory limiting capacity to 25% of total seating capacity, excluding staff. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Greg Sherman.
And who will be testifying on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Sergeant Detective Gallagher.
Are there any other individuals with personal knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify? Seeing none, please raise your right hand. Mr. Sherman, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do as well.
Sergeant, you may proceed with the police report.
Yes, good morning. Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, Boston Police, currently assigned to the licensed premise unit. This morning I'll be reading from the Boston Police incident report that I wrote on 1/29/2021 at about 9:10 p.m. Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, licensed premise unit, and PO Annie Barrett, the Fox 690, assigned to BPD Station C6, conducted a licensed premise inspection of Rosa Mexicano at 155 Seaport Boulevard. This inspection came about because of a complaint received at the mayor's hotline at City Hall. The complaint stated that Rosa Mexicano was not adhering to COVID-19 guidelines. As officers entered the restaurant, they observed all the tables to be occupied, those socially separated, with no more than 6 patrons seated together. Check of the premises common victual license revealed that the normal capacity is set at 296. Under the governor's and Boston Licensing Board's COVID-19 guidelines, each premise must operate at a reduced capacity, 25%. That figure would be 74 patrons. Sergeant Detective Gallagher inquired with the manager as to the house count this evening. Mr. Greg Sherman stated approximately 111. Sergeant Detective Gallagher informed Mr. Sherman that under the governor's guidelines that there should be no more than 74 patrons. Sergeant Gallagher then conducted a mechanical count of the premise, which resulted in 133 patrons. This figure was given to Mr. Sherman, who stated that he would bring the restaurant into compliance. As a result, what officers had observed, Sergeant Gallagher issued license premise inspection notice number 004568 to Rosa Mexicano for failure to adhere to Governor and Boston Licensing Board guidelines on COVID-19, reduced capacity of 25%. Greg Sherman signed for and accepted the notice. Sergeant informed Mr. Sherman that Rosa Mexicano is to appear for the Boston Licensing Board for emergency Monday, February 1st, 2021, 11 a.m. The hearing will be conducted. Those essentially are the for that evening.
Thank you, Sergeant.
You're
Before
welcome.
the chairwoman and commissioners ask questions of the licensee, Mr. Sherman, would you like to make a statement on behalf of the licensee?
No, I don't. I mean, I have, I can explain what happened. I can explain how it happened. I don't have an answer to why it should have never happened. I can tell you that walking through the restaurant with Sergeant Gallagher, it was It was eye-opening how this happened. I mean, we use systems like OpenTable to help us solidify this from never happening. This was the first Saturday or Friday that, for the first time, you know, our outdoor capacity became off limits because of the bitter cold. We have these outdoor igloo huts. We have outdoor seating that was assigned. OpenTable allowed these reservations to take place. I realized that morning where we stood. I shut down OpenTable. I took the last reservation at 8 o'clock, thinking we would have an hour to oversee it. When we lost the ability to have 6.5 feet of separation on these tables and went down to 25% capacity, knowing what I saw this weekend and how we actually reacted to the flow of the people at the door, I should have taken out the tables. On a Sunday through Thursday, it's nice to be able to sit a guest at a table and another guest 50 feet away. After this first weekend where we lost the ability to seat outside, I took every single table out that would get me there. I mean, we ran Saturday with 66 total seats in the restaurant and never once one patron at the door on a wait list. I publicized new signage around the restaurant on the outside of the restaurant, where if you're checking into your party, unfortunately, we can only allow one guest at a time from each party until your reservation was available. As a father of 4, as someone who's done this for 20 years, as someone who lost their mother in May to COVID, I was embarrassed, I was disheartened, and I was eye-opened on the fact that the reason why, after 36 years, this restaurant's done so well and why we've been able to, prosper is a hard word to say now, but why we've been able to come out of this somewhat significantly strong is because of the trust that we have, not only in our staff, but in the guests to do this the right way. And Friday we didn't. I will keep OpenTable offline until we get 50% capacity back. We will take only reservations in the restaurant that we know we can handle for the restaurant only. And, you know, again, I'm very sorry that this happened. It should have never happened, and nothing like this will ever take place again. But I do appreciate Sergeant Gallagher. I mean, I've worked with him throughout the years, and I always find some of the things that we've learned along the way helpful. I don't think anything ever gut punched me as how eye-opening this was. I do not want to be part of the problem moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sherman, I just want to let you know that this complaint came in from one of your guests who was outraged when they were walking to the restaurant to see the COVID violations. It came directly to me on Friday night. I'll let you know that. So your patrons too were completely outraged by this. So your regular capacity is 296.
Yes, ma'am.
And you understand that right now during this public health crisis, it's 25% of your capacity that's permitted to be inside your restaurant?
And that's how yes, and that's what we have it lined up in.
You know that 25% is 74 people?
I do.
And then when Sergeant Gallagher showed up, you had stated it was 111, so you would have known you were already over capacity?
No, I knew I was,
Even though
because
you were
we have.
In
I'm
the
sorry,
actual
you broke up.
capacity was 133?
Yes,
I just want to point out this is a very serious time. I understand what's going on in the restaurants, but this is a public health crisis. And as regulators, it's our responsibility to ensure that you're abiding by the rules and regulations of this board.
100%.
And we're getting calls from people who feel unsafe when they go into your restaurant, which then precipitates me calling our staff to go and do an inspection, which then precipitates this Monday morning hearing just for these COVID violations. These are very unusual times. This is how serious the board is taking these violations. I have no other questions. Commissioners?
Seeing
Thank you.
Nothing to add. Thank you.
I just want to add that this 25% capacity is not new. You'll have to work more closely with OpenTable or come up with some other management structures because this is not new.
No, and again, I will not blame OpenTable for any of it. This is no one else's fault other than my own as the operator of the restaurant. So I have right now 66 total seats in OpenTable that you can book at one time. I made the mistake of allowing outdoor reservations to also be part of reservations being booked. And it has not been an issue because of the igloos and the huts and everything else. That was a mistake. It hasn't been an issue, but because of the fact that we doubled what we could take inside with outdoor seating. And this was the first weekend where we really just had, and again, Sunday through Thursday, if there's 10 people here at once, it's a shock. But Friday and Saturday, you still have that want and that need and that desire for people who want to sit outside. Where I made the mistake by allowing it to happen was I allowed outdoor reservations who booked for outdoor reservations to then be sat inside our restaurant. I wasn't at the door. It doesn't matter. It's my fault in general because I allowed it to happen, bottom line.
Okay.
That was not the case after seeing what happened, feeling what happened, seeing the line of people, and just that pit in your stomach, knowing that you failed. Not just your team, but my guests and in general. I mean, if we don't have public's trust, then we don't have a business, bottom line. Saturday, it was
And by you not
completely
canceling,
different.
by you not canceling those outdoor reservations and allowing them to eat inside, you've put the livelihood of your staff at risk and you're risking your license. So. I'm gonna repeat
100%.
that. I have no further questions.
Is there a motion for the board to take a vote on this matter?
I make a motion to vote.
Is there a second?
I see.
Curran seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There are none opposed. Chairwoman Joyce?
I find a violation of the COVID-19 guidelines.
See a violation as well.
As do I.
If the board finds violation, Chairwoman Joyce, do you have a recommendation for disciplinary action?
I recommend 1-day suspension of this license to be served on a Friday night.
I agree.
I agree as well.
Just for the record, this violation was on a Saturday, Friday or a Saturday?
It was a Friday.
This
Oh,
Friday.
I thought it was my mistake. Okay, 1-day suspension to be served on a Friday. All in favor?
Aye.
And the 1-day suspension will not be stayed pending any appeal. A written decision will be forthcoming. Thank you.
Thank you.
Calling item 2, GSI Shamet LLC, doing business as Kava, located at 315 Shamet Avenue. The date of the incident is January 29th, 2021. Failure to adhere to the governor's executive order and the board's advisory limiting capacity to 25%, excluding capacity excluding staff. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Alexander Lievanov for head server.
And George Axiotis, owner.
Who will be testifying on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
I will be.
Detective Hernandez.
Alex Lievanov.
Are there any other individuals with personal knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify?
Sergeant Detective Gallagher, if need be.
Thank you. Please raise your right hands. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Detective Hernandez, you may proceed with
Good morning. I'll be reading from police report, which I wrote. On Thursday, January 28, 2021, at about 9:35 p.m., Sergeant Detective Willow Gallagher and Detective Eddie Hernandez assigned to Leslie's unit for performing checks in bars and restaurants during the COVID-19 emergency. While walking into Kava Restaurant located at 315 Shamet Ave, detectives noticed that the establishment appeared to be over their capacity. Detectives asked staff what the count of patrons located inside the establishment was. The staff members say that he had 19 patrons. Detectives learned that the capacity of the premise is set at 34 patrons. Detective Hernandez performed a count of the establishment. Detective Hernandez confirmed that the actual amount of patrons seated inside the premise was 19 patrons. Detectives reiterated the importance of the governor's COVID guidelines and Boston's licensing board advisory on the current prohibition of no more than 25% of the overall capacity of the licensed premise. Temporary reduced capacity for this establishment would be 9 patrons. Detectives brought this to the attention of the person in charge, Mr. Alex Lievanov. Mr. Lievanov stated that he would bring the establishment capacity into compliance as a result of what detectives observed. Sergeant Detective Gallagher issued license premise inspection notice 024100. This notice was for failure to adhere to the governor's COVID guidelines and the Boston Licensing Board advisory on the prohibition of no more than 25% of the overall capacity of the licensed premise, overcrowding of the establishment. Mr. Lievanov signed for and accepted the notice. Should be noted that an emergency license premise hearing notice was given to Mr. Lievanov. The hearing will be held on Monday, February 1st, 2021.
Thank you, Detective. Would the licensee like to make a statement?
Well, so at that moment when they came in, we had a party waiting outside in the cold. As we all know, it was very cold on Thursday night. And we had also a couple of parties that were paying to, and they were waiting to leave. So we did make a mistake and allow, a party to come in and sit down so they wouldn't be outside in the cold, and that put us over the capacity limit. And we did make a mistake, and we didn't know that 5 minutes while people left and while people switch tables wouldn't be a problem. But knowing now, it's clear that we can't allow that anymore. And all our staff was informed about the capacity, and we're being very strict with this moving forward.
Chairwoman Joyce, do you have any questions for the licensee?
Yes, the incident report states that you were aware you had 19 patrons at the time.
At the time that they walked in, yes. Like I said, 2 of those parties were waiting to leave the restaurant or the premises. And like I said before, it was cold outside. We let them in. We did make a mistake. And
You just said
for
one
our rest,
party waiting to come in. So that would have been one party of 6 people maximum that was waiting to come in.
correct, but it was a 5-top that were coming in. Actually, it was an 8-top. We gave them 2
The numbers
tables
still don't add up.
in the front of the restaurant, and the other outgoing parties
Okay.
were at the other end. So, they had more than 30 or 40 feet between parties, from the front end of the restaurant to the back of the restaurant.
Okay. Detective, did it appear that there was a party waiting to come in to be seated and a party waiting to leave?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, the
As-
numbers don't really add up.
So as
I
the
have no other
detective
questions.
walked in,
We are operating during the COVID public health crisis. My staff and I are here today because we found a violation. This is very unusual for the licensing board to have these emergency Monday morning hearings. This 25% capacity is not new. It's something that restaurants have had to operate with for several weeks now. If you have problems figuring out how to do that, we can work with you. Commissioner Saxon, Commissioner Curran, do you have any questions?
No, just a general comment that, other restaurants have had to figure out how to get their guests to wait outside. Maybe they wait in their cars, you get their cell phone number and you bring them in when you guys have capacity, when you have the room in order to let them in.
I'm troubled by the idea, you don't leave any time in between your reservations to clean up the table areas between
Oh.
seatings?
So the way we are doing it, we're setting up a 90-minute, limit as stated by the governor. So we tend to, just give people, or like the parties that we're gonna get in, hey, we have this time available, so you have to be, I need you out by such, a certain amount of, like, certain time, so that the other party can come in. So at the time when the officers came in, we had 2 parties that were paying to leave. And like I said, we made a mistake. We let the other people in to sit down and start having their experience.
Are you leaving any time in between, are you leaving any time in between the parties to clean up between the parties? So like 15 minutes where one party's gone and the other party's not expected?
Yeah, it takes literally like two minutes, since the restaurant is smaller, and the smaller. It's a little smaller, so it takes the staff less time to clean up. It takes like a minute or 2, or to 5 minutes tops.
Doesn't it take time for sanitizer to work?
Yes, we do sanitize every surface every 10 minutes. We have paper at the tables, which we switch right away between meals. We sanitize chairs. We have dividers in between each table that are about 6 feet long to cover each table, and that goes for every table that we have.
Well, I think you should consider giving yourself some working time in between parties.
Okay.
And I just want to repeat, we understand and appreciate how difficult it is to operate during these times. We really do. We don't create or write these guidelines. It's our job to regulate them and to enforce them. So if we can be helpful to you, let us know. But it is our duty to enforce and regulate these guidelines. And it's your duty to abide by them and operate safely.
Understood.
Is there a motion for the board to take a vote on this
I make a
matter?
motion to take a vote.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chairwoman Joyce?
I find a violation of the governor's COVID-19 guidelines.
I agree.
As do I.
The board finds a violation. Chairwoman Joyce, do you have a suggested disciplinary action?
I make a motion for a one-day suspension to be served on a Thursday night.
I agree.
Agree as well.
1 day but suspension to be served on a Thursday night. The suspension will not be stayed pending any appeal, and the written statement of reasons will be forthcoming. Those are all the matters before the board today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.